Good evening to you. Thank you for your company. I hope you enjoyed the glorious sunshine we had today and indeed are excited for the so-called heat wave next week. I know I am. Because sunshine is a beautiful thing, isn't it? I call it the closest physical manifestation we have to God, whatever or whoever God is. It's literally life force, God energy, that allows flowers to flourish and powerful trees to grow. It allows us to grow food. It heals and nourishes our bodies and makes pub beer gardens that much sweeter too. So ask yourself then, why would anyone ever want to block out the sun deliberately? What kind of person would want to do that kind of thing? Well, if you ever needed proof that we're led by dangerous, incompetent weirdos, that's what they're planning to do now, here in the UK. British scientists are launching a £40 million government-funded geoengineering experiment to literally test dimming the sun in the name of solving climate change. The government's Advanced Research and Invention Agency, or ARIA, aims to block sunlight reaching the Earth's surface with projects that include spraying aerosols in the atmosphere to make clouds brighter, which will then reflect sunshine. What could go wrong? If successful, ARIA thinks the plan could temporarily reduce surface temperatures, which would then give humans more time to reduce carbon emissions before climate change sends us all to hell. Aerosols would be sprayed into the atmosphere using boats or aeroplanes, which is interestingly a similar process to the one parroted by so-called conspiracy theorists who have been complaining for years about what they call chemtrails in our skies, like these on your screen now. Those pesky conspiracy theorists again. Anyway, leading scientists are now raising the alarm on British plans to block the sun. Raymond Pierre Humbert, a professor of planetary physics at the University of Oxford, said this month that the UK's gamble on solar geoengineering is like using aspirin for cancer. Calling the project barking mad, he went on, "Since 2021 commentary from ourselves, the situation has grown far worse, with tens of millions of dollars pouring into the scheme, mostly from private donors. Bill Gates was an early backer, and the tech and fintech industries have piled on since. But we never imagined that the UK government itself would be leading the charge into what is almost universally recognised as the most dangerous and destabilising source of research. Field trials that risk developing dangerous technology and paving the way for deployment." Did you catch the name there? Bill Gates. I know many people watching this now will be rolling their eyes at the mention of the Microsoft billionaire once again, but it is an indisputable fact that Gates does have his hands in many controversial cookie jars. This was Tucker Carlson in the US some years ago, raising the alarm on America's own geoengineering madness.
And that's why Bill Gates is now backing something called sun-dimming technology that would reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, causing global cooling.
Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial. It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface.
All right, so what do we know about ARIA, the whack job public body that wants to block British sunshine? Well, Michael E. Mann, who is the Presidential Distinguished Professor at the University of Pennsylvania, wrote in The Guardian last month, ARIA, with an initial budget of £800 million, arose from the fevered dreams of Dominic Cummings at the height of the Boris Johnson crony capitalism years. After a rocky start for the office, Cummings' legacy lives on in the current Labour government, which seems to have lost track of what ARIA is doing. ARIA, a wannabe clone of the US Defence Advanced Projects Agency, works in darkness. It's not subject to freedom of information requests. It gives a pot of money to each of its directors to direct expenditure largely as they wish, with only minimal peer review. The director in charge of the solar geoengineering project is Mark Symes, an electrochemist with no background in climate science. Very good. Well, that fills you with confidence, doesn't it? And ARIA's thesis document online, which you can go and find yourself, is titled "Exploring Options for Cooling the Earth." It's been described as chilling, outlining how the project is going all in on the supposed need for sunblocking field trials without making the case for what could happen if this was fully deployed all over the world. What would happen to crops, to farms, to rainfall and food supplies? What would happen if the technology got into the wrong hands? In America, British plans to block the sun have even caught the attention of Donald Trump's White House. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the US Secretary of Health and Human Services, tweeted just a few days ago, "We'll soon end this crime against humanity and our planet and bring justice to the plutocrats who are perpetuating this mass uncontrolled experiment." Meanwhile, the aforementioned Professor Mark Symes, who's leading the ARIA programme in the UK, said the looming threat of climate tipping points was a strong reason to research solar geoengineering. He added, "Having spoken to hundreds of researchers, we concluded that a critical missing part of our understanding was real-world physical data. These would show us whether any of these potential approaches would actually work and what their effects might be." But I'm sorry, I'm just going to say tonight outright, I just can't go along with that train of thought. This looks and sounds like a totally anti-human, anti-nature idea that would spark God knows what consequences for humans, the animal kingdom, and indeed Mother Nature. And it should be consigned to the dustbin of history.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Well, I'm joined now by climate researcher Paul Burgess, who joins me live down the line. Paul, good evening. Thank you for your company. What's your thoughts on what I just said there, and indeed the wider project of solar geoengineering?
Right. Well, what you just said there in summary, I totally agree with the ethnic aspect and so on. But just looking at the science, I'd like to make 3 points. Number one, it's not needed. We're not suffering from excess heat waves. For example, in 2011, we had a heat wave that would just drown it out today as regards heat. It began in early July. This is over 100 years ago. It didn't let up until mid-September. And even in September, it was 33 degrees, and it was 36 degrees in July, August. Massive, and that was over over a large part of the world, America. In Paris, they lost 40,000 people in that heat wave. So if you look back historically, the heat waves are far worse. So this is all imagination to begin with, right? And the next thing is, I did some scoping today on it, and I actually started to do some simple calcs on it. Now, what's scoping? It's looking at how reasonable the project is, yes? So I asked for the area around the UK. I worked out the area around the UK, and you couldn't cool by more than half a degree, by the way. There's no limit to, there's no way we can do more than half a degree. What would that require? Well, if we modified 6,120 jumbo jets, yes?
Yeah.
And we had flying at 20, 30,000 feet in the cirrus, yes? Then each one would use 50 tons of fuel each day, right? That is a third of 1 million tons of fuel each day into the air, which, by the way, would have a more negative effect on the alarmist CO2 to begin with. So you're worse off to begin with, right? But then that would cost between 3 to 5 trillion pounds a year to operate. And that doesn't count having to cover the whole of the UK and airports to do it. And now the big problem there is you're injecting it high into the atmosphere, into the jet stream. The jet stream, typical speed, 150 miles an hour. So what you do to cool the UK is going to end up in Western Russia. And they won't be too happy about you cooling it by half a degree, right? So it's ludicrous. On any proper scientist, any proper technologist would know this is ludicrous.
So, Paul, why are we doing it then? Why are we spending £50 million of taxpayer money doing this when not all, but lots of leading scientists say it's absolute nonsense?
Well, we're doing it because we have a government just completely besotted into a cult called net zero. We have to stop net zero. I wear a badge here. I love CO2. I want to see more of it. And that is the real science, actually. And everything I do, I've got over 200 videos on this. And everything I do is backed by the science and the evidence I give. Everything I do on it. And so why? Well, why has the world gone mad? We've had lots of mad things before. We've had really stupid things in the past, which we know now are stupid. But there's no, I know a number of scientists. No one thinks this is sensible. No one.
Yeah.
But to waste £50 million with a university professor who hasn't a clue what he's doing is absurd. And it is dangerous, by the way. It is dangerous because we don't understand the jet stream. We do not understand clouds even. We haven't got the science behind clouds yet, right yet. And so to do it is ridiculous.
Okay.
And all you're going to hear against this, what I've said, is appeals to authority where people say they know better because they know more. That gets you nowhere in science. Or consensus. Consensus is a political thing, not a scientific
All right,
thing.
Paul. Paul, thank you very much for your expertise and your company. Really appreciate it. Climate researcher Paul Burgess. Yeah, it just seems to me like people just want to play God. We want to literally modify the weather in the name of net zero. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Businessman and activist Adam Brooks, political commentator Chloe Dobbs and the former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Good evening to you all. Welcome along. Hope you enjoyed the sun today. Make the most of it because it's been blocked out, apparently. Bill, what do you make of this? Had you heard of this project before? Labour have been accused of kind of leaving ARIA, this government public body, to their own devices with 50 million quid's worth of money. What's your thoughts on it all?
Well, as you know, I've just spent 3 hours in a car trying to get to the studio, so I'm not thinking desperately straight. I've not heard of it, but I do know this. Scientific progress would never have been made if at every juncture there was an outcry and it was opposed. My understanding of this is it's small-scale trials to test the efficacy of the science to see whether what is called geoengineering can make a contribution scientifically to tackling climate change. There are no toxic substances involved. There'll be environmental impact assessments, and people in the localities where it takes place will be consulted. If, and it's a big if, it then proves its efficacy, there would then have to be further major large-scale consultation, evaluation, rigorous scrutiny. So we're way away from some of the doomsday scenario that was being projected there.
OK, Chloe, any thoughts?
I'm up for experimenting with things, but it sounds like this ARIA company is not really to be trusted.
They're not even a company, sorry, just to correct you, they're a public body funded by you and me and people at home.
So this public body, Bill, you've said there needs to be huge scrutiny, but according to, this was in The Guardian that there's huge outcry about this, and I think that's quite telling that a paper like The Guardian is massively against this. They are saying that this is a body that is not subject to freedom of information requests, that there's not really much peer reviewing with what they do. I think it's quite concerning. Another thing I'd say is I do think that messing with nature needs to be done very, very, very carefully. For example, it takes nature a long time to adapt to changes in temperature. So if you release these particles in the air to block the sun and then decide it's not safe, we're going to stop it, and then suddenly there's a big drop in temperature, that could also cause a lot of problems in nature, biodiversity, etc. Yeah. There's so many things that could go wrong with this. I think we need to be very careful.
And also, it makes me laugh that Ed Miliband is running around getting solar panels everywhere and destroying the countryside, and yet at the same time we're funding projects to block the sun. So make your mind up. Adam Brooks?
Yeah, look, anything with Bill Gates, even connected to it, I do not trust. Even his wife didn't trust him in the end.
Oh, that's a cheap shot.
Who voted for this? What mandate have they got to start messing about with our climate and our weather? They haven't. As Bill said, there could be a small trial, but that could spiral and have consequences far beyond our understanding. We see during COVID that scientists get things completely wrong. The COVID modelers messed up so badly. What's to say that these people aren't going to mess up as well? In the United Arab Emirates, they cloud seed, and it's public knowledge that they do that. In the last few years, we've seen some of the worst flooding in Dubai, and of course they're going to deny, it's not what we're doing to the clouds. But it's a bit
But
coincidental.
they didn't deny cloud seeding. They just
No.
said the two weren't linked. They were cloud seeding 1 week quite heavily,
Bit
and then the next week they
coincidental.
had a record floods. I mean, they denied that, but they don't deny they actually do cloud seed. And
wrong.
it's interesting, Chloe, you said messing with nature, but we saw during COVID, Bill, that we do mess with nature. Anthony Fauci, gain of function research at the Wuhan lab, arguably the White House now says that's what caused the COVID pandemic, gain of function research, which is highly dangerous. So that we are already messing with nature, it seems.
Well, I don't believe a word that comes out of the Trump White House. I mean, distorts things every day of the week. But look,
it's not just the US. Many intelligence agencies now.
But look, you never make progress unless you experiment. We wouldn't have got to this stage of human development without science and without experimentation. You need to do it prudently and cautiously. And I've not seen anything here that suggests this is careering away and he's taking risks. And you talk about the two scientists who have opposed it. Those two scientists want to go much further and faster on the traditional methods of net zero, which is constantly being decried in this studio.
Yeah, this isn't an argument about net zero, whether, I mean, as I said, these two scientists I quoted, they are all for net zero. They don't contest climate change. They're just saying blocking the sun, which I think is just absolute insanity. It's godlike behaviour from a bunch of weirdos, if you ask me.
And in this country, we desperately need more sunshine. I mean, we really struggle in the winter. I had to suspend from uni from vitamin D deficiency.
I know.
But I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. If, and it is a big if this was successful, you'd still get a lot of sun coming into the country.
All right, viewers, let us know what you think. GBNews.com/your site. Should we block out the sun? Good idea? I don't know.